guys, thanks everybody for coming. The girls here are all recent grads, so they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, where they work, and their daily activities, and then we're going to open it up just for general questions, any concerns you have about basically anything. So,
hi guys, my name is Danielle. I graduated from BSB in 2009. It seems like it was 5 minutes ago. Time really flies once you leave. I'm living in Westchester, New York, and working for KPMG in their financial services audit practice. I guess my first year I audited Citigroup, and this year I just got switched to General Electric Capital Corporation, so that's where I am now. Nice to see you guys.
Hi ladies, I'm Lauren McFadden. I graduated in 2009 as Finance and International Business major, and currently I'm working for a consulting auditing firm that does these services for the government, and we go in and do consulting for compliance for Fortune 500 companies. I was switched to BlackRock in January, but this is where I am for now, and I'm living in Manioc, and I'm very happy to do that.
My name is Gabriela. I'm working for a news media corporation in Philadelphia. I am a business analyst, but my functions are very vast. Project I'm currently working on is an internal business plan, achieve strategic revenue. So that's what I'm doing.
My name is Meghan McKeown. I just graduated in May 2010. Work at the Radisson Valley Forge Hotel and the Valley Forge Convention Center. We have 2 hotels, 2 restaurants, the convention center, and a nightclub. So I actually started in May as the marketing coordinator, so I did a lot of collateral, and just a couple weeks ago they kind of downsized the marketing department, so I actually got moved and promoted to be the executive assistant, so now I support the executive committee for the whole complex. Day to day, I do a lot of different things, helping the general manager of the hotel and complex and the director of sales and marketing. I just did budget binders, so that's really fun. But I get to do a lot of things and really understand the inner workings of the hotel, and I'll get to know all the things that most people in the sales department wouldn't know. And I do also support the sales team.
Hi girls, I'm Kristen Piasio. I also graduated this past May. I work for NBC Commercial for the television division. So basically what my job entails is working with clients such as Meghan and trying to integrate their products into our programming. So if you ever watch Villanova, which is basically like a soap opera in Spanish, and you see our product, it's usually a product placement that's paid for by the company. Additionally, I also do trade advertisements, so not only do we work with clients, but we also promote our own product and show what we're people love for the company. So we do a lot of trade advertisements in magazines like Hispanic Market Weekly or the Multi-Channel News, Wall Street Journal, all different publications, not just in Hispanic markets, but also in the general market as well. So it's very busy because it's 24/7. It's good.
Hi, my name is Malinowski, and I graduated in 2009 with a degree in communication. When I graduated, I started working at an art museum out in East of Long Island in the Hamptons, and I worked there for just under a year before moving to a similar position where I work now at the School of American Ballet. I'm a special events assistant, and basically what I do is a little bit of event planning and fundraising development type of things. So I plan our 3 large fundraisers, which bring in about $2 million for the school and provide financial aid for the students and everything from studio maintenance to paying my salary. So, and I live in New York.
Hi, my name is Carla Bello. I graduated in May. Thank you. It's kind of a last minute call to this panel. But anyways, I was a marketing major and entrepreneurship minor. And up until September this year, I was working in the brand marketing department at Sunoco, their corporate headquarters. And at that point, it was kind of higher level marketing. trying to figure out cool new programs to put down at the stores. But in September, they moved me to the price book department, which is also under marketing, but it's a lot closer to store level operations. So it's just making sure things get done, things get executed at the stores. And that's pretty much it. Oh, and I still live at home. Just got all my school loan information, so I'm going to figure that out first before I move out and take more debt.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, a question to the two ladies. So coming out with that, did you guys plan on wanting to work abroad, or when you were looking for a friend to work for, was that a major issue, or?
I know for me, I studied abroad, and that was kind of where I picked up my international business major. I like my job because I'm traveling, and a lot of auditing and accounting practices have been moved over to India. So as part of my job, I get to go over there, and I was definitely looking for that in a job, and I think traveling's a great experience, and if the company can pay for it, all the better. So it wasn't a definite for me, but it was definitely a part of my job. And a lot of jobs these days, they do give you that experience, and it's up for you to take it.
I was also international business, graduated, and I definitely had the thought of working for an international firm. The company that I currently work for has offices in South America, so it's very beneficial that I know the language and know the financial language is also very different. That said, it's beneficial in work, but also surprisingly beneficial for my graduate school path. I'm currently applying to graduate school, and I know the international business courses that I took here and abroad, because I did that twice, are very important.
Yeah, it definitely helps, I think. I think one of the biggest things I learned in my international business major is that you have to keep an open mind, and some of just the good business practices that I learned in those classes, and being open to the culture and being somewhere where you're uncomfortable, learning good resources and good habits when you're in an unfamiliar setting. I think kind of the qualitative things that you learn from those classes are more important than the quantitative.
When looking or applying for jobs, did you take the first job offer that you had, or were you really looking to find the perfect job when you were looking at it? Just open it.
I'll start off. I actually did I had a really strange situation on my hands. I had a job offer on one hand and the promise of a job on another. And I tell you, that was a really tough decision for me. And it came down to knowing what I wanted and where I wanted to go in life. The job offer I had was in a financial institution. So I knew that getting into that, and they were as far as you can get from marketing. They actually don't do any marketing. So and I knew I wanted to do marketing in the long run, no matter what it was going to be. So I ended up kind of going with the promise, and it worked out for me. Luckily, now I'm with a Fortune 500 company, and I have every other Friday off. But in terms of trying to make that decision, it really just comes down to I did a lot of job searching, looking around, and you really have to know what you want and know where you want to go. The route that I took was I did a lot of research into that company. I spoke to people that already worked there. I spoke to people that worked there and then left. I asked them why they left. I even asked usually everyone asks, what do you like about the company? It's all the same. If you ask them what they don't like, then you might figure out a little bit more about what you like and not like.
I think it's important to have your dream job or that perfect job that you want and your end result in mind, and just to be flexible. I started out thinking that I was a political science minor. I started out thinking that I wanted to maybe take a job in Washington or something with politics, and I got offered a temp job with no benefits that paid, I think it was like $1,000 a month, and it was only for 3 months, and it was without the promise. It was for a campaign without the promise of ultimately getting hired, and I ended up not getting it, so it made it an easy decision for me. But I really thought about it because I thought it would be a great means to an end, and if the person, it was for Joe Sestak, if anybody knows him. I thought he was going to run for Senate, and that would be just a great way to get in on the ground floor. And even though I was going to be living in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, with this very minimal salary with no stability, I was just kind of excited by it. I ended up going a much different route, but I definitely could have seen where that could have been something great. He also ended up losing the Senate race, so it would have been a bad decision ultimately. But I can see that it could have been really amazing. But I ended up liking my job. So
I took a similar route. I had a job offer from Forbes, but it was in the HR industry. And I was really going back and forth because I was like, you know what, the job market's tough. Do I just take the job, build the relationships, and then eventually transfer into the marketing department? But I knew marketing was what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have to step back in 2 years in a job and then start from a startup position again in 2 years. So I declined on that, and 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from where I interned, and they're like, hey, we have an opening. Like, do you want to start in 2 weeks? I was like, yes. Like, where do I sign? So I think things happen for a reason, but I think for me, it was knowing what I wanted to do that really helped me stand right here.
I would say the job I'm in right now isn't my ideal place. I do love the hospitality industry, and where I am right now is a great place to get my foot in the door and kind of save up money. I still live at home, like Helen is, and it's not ideally where I want to be in maybe 5 years, but it's a great place to start. I am learning a ton about the industry, and I am able to kind of save up and something, I don't know if anybody here is interested in the hospitality industry, but something I've even just been learning is my Radisson has nothing really to do with the Radisson brand name. Like, we're owned by a separate management company. So I'm getting to know people not only from the Radisson brand, but also from this management company that has connections in all other Starwood brands, the Hiltons, Marriotts, all over the country. So it's not always necessarily about finding the perfect job in the perfect place. It's kind of making things work in the right time for you, at least in my experience.
I also have similar stories than all these girls. When I was about to graduate, I had 3 offers. One that I was seriously contemplating, which was for JP Morgan. Even though I was a finance major, deep down I knew I didn't want to be in finance. In strictly finance, deep down I knew. I knew that I wanted to eventually have the flexibility of going back to grad school. At that point, at graduation, I wasn't completely convinced which master I wanted to apply to. I was thinking political science or foreign policy, which is completely different from what I had studied in the past 4 years. So the job route that I eventually ended up picking was a position that I knew that I would like, the company that I would like because I did my research, and also the company that I knew would give me the flexible hours, even though they are long hours, I do have to work sometimes on weekends. It would give me the hours to take the GRE, to visit schools, to take a summer program. This past summer, I did a summer program at George Washington, and I took 2 weeks off. And I don't think if I was at JP Morgan, I would be allowed to take 2 weeks off from that position. So basically, in the end, I guess the point is, I think Liz and Carla as well, you really have to know what eventually you think yourself doing in 5 years. It's not just a job, it's a qualification. It's not just for the instant salary versus if one job pays you 50 versus 45. It really is. You really have to feel comfortable, not only now, but you have to picture yourself in 5 years. And I think this is a huge thing, and I'm
Yeah, I also didn't take my first job offer. My first job offer was with the company I interned with in New York, Goldman Sachs. I interned with the company in the summer, didn't love the position, so I turned it down. And I kind of took the best fitting job It was close to home. I was able to save money for a little bit, and it just seemed like the right step at the right time. And the best advice I've ever gotten from anyone, honestly, is they call it your first job for a reason, because it's not your only job. And as long as you're making steps in the right direction, I told you guys earlier, I'm switching companies in January because this job's great, but I think I could be doing more of what I'm passionate about with a different company and in a different direction. So I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves to find the right job, the perfect job for the first job, but that's not the way it is anymore, and people switch a lot, and don't put too much stress on yourself.
I definitely agree with what all the girls said. For me, I think when I made my decision, looking into the culture of each of the firms that I was interviewing with was very important to me. I work for one of the big four, and definitely in my field you spend a lot of hours in the office, and it was important to me to get along and fit in with my colleagues. And I guess what Lauren said, your first job is definitely not going to be your last job. Another big factor when I was making my decision was I knew that I wanted to get my CPA, and KPMG is a good platform for me to get that experience. So.
I have a question. For those of you where it was feasible to live at home or move closer, does anybody have any strong feeling one way or the other, what you did or what you thought you should have done?
I mean, I'm still at home right now. It's an hour and a half commute. I work in New York City, live on Long Island. It's tough. I mean, especially for those late hours in the office. I'll get out at 9 and still have an hour and a half ahead of me to get home, go to bed, and basically turn around and go back in the next day. Fortunately, I will say a lot of people from Villanova are in New York City, so there is that occasional phone call of the, hey, can I stay at your place tonight? But in the long run, I mean, even speaking to my parents, I was fortunate enough to go home, and I am saving money, so eventually down the line I'll have that stability and hopefully be able to move in. I'm thinking this summer, so I'll have a year under my belt before. But it was just the right choice for me, and conveniently I was close to where I was working, so I was fortunate enough to be able to do that.
I'll be honest. I did not want to move home after school. In fact, I was really, really upset about it. I love my parents very dearly, but separation is definitely good for us sometimes. And I was ready to be on my own. And I did move home for a year and a half. And you know what? Even though it was hard at times, and even though I really wished I was in a city, it's definitely not as fun in the suburbs. But I was able to save enough money, and then I just closed on a house last week. So don't look at living at home as something awful. It might be hard at times, but you know what? Just stay at home, save money, and then you can eventually go out, rent in the city, buy your own house, see it as an opportunity.
I definitely agree with her. I still live at home currently, probably looking to buy a place in the spring. It's a great way to save money. I guess, your first year out is maybe your first time with significant paycheck, and it's very tempting to spend it, go on take vacations, buy new clothes. So I definitely think living at home is a good way to just get a solid base for you to do what you want to do in the future. I think it also depends on your location to where you're working and the lifestyle that you want to have.
When you guys mentioned internships,
I had 2 internships. I interned for the Philadelphia Business Journal in event planning, and I did an intern with the Art and Theater in Albany as a marketing intern. And I guess not a mistake because I loved both of them, but my biggest mistake in those internships were that they were for really small companies, and they weren't necessarily looking to hire as kind of like somebody had to quit or die to get the job there. So that was kind of tough trying to get a job, and they were helpful, but if anybody's looking for internships, we are hiring a few at the convention center. So if you want to, I'll be at the networking thing. So if you want to come talk to me, if anybody's interested in event planning, marketing, or sales, or green energy, if anybody is to that. We're looking for a few different interns. So yeah, I would say I've kept in touch with the people I've interned with. I'm on a committee at the Arden still, the Young Friends Committee. So it's a great way to keep my interest in theater and that connection going. We get together for once for every show of the season, 20s and 30-somethings, and we have a pre-show party. We see the show together, and then we go out with the cast to a local bar. So it's something cool that I've kept in touch with, and it's really important too, just because like I know I've called Lee, my boss, and we needed a truss, which is like this metal thing to support a trapeze one time. So I called her for that. So yeah, it's always important. I know they talked about it in the global Women Abroad, is to keep in touch with your contacts because you never know where something's going to be.
I agree. I think that's especially important for references. For the job that I just got hired at a few months ago, she asked for a total of, I think it was 7 references when all was said and done. And I had to, at one point, tell her, I'm only 23 years old, I haven't worked that much. Like I was a waitress when I was 16, you want to talk to them. But it's really, but I was fortunate because I did an internship every summer. I did some during semesters while I was working. It's great experience, and it's also great to weed out what you don't want to do. I had a lot of internships where I realized this just isn't for me, but it was only a summer, and I enjoyed it and made good contact, and I found a person that likes me and can speak on my behalf if I need 7 references. And it's, it's a really valuable thing. So any internship, paid or unpaid, that you can do, even during the school year, even if it's just a few hours after class or something like that, just to build up your networking and your skill set and the amount of people that can speak on your behalf is a really valuable thing.
If you're looking for internships, like right now, obviously, of course, you all know about GoNova, but even go beyond that. There are plenty of just Philadelphia-based websites that will help you out, like philaculture.org, phillyagclub.com. Those are all kind of industry-based. Philaculture is all about kind of the arts, and if you're interested in anything like that. And even business, like the Creative Council of Arts and Business or something in Philadelphia. They had some internships on there. And even just you can even look at a specific company that you're already interested in. Go to their website and see if they're hiring. Even if they don't have anything specific up there, send your cover letter and resume and just ask. I mean, my big thing is just be open and upfront. So if you know you want in terms of a company or a particular experience you want in an industry, just go for that. Don't just limit yourself to, I mean, the Clay Center has great resources, but don't limit yourself to just that little office. Go beyond that and look for more things.
I also think that your internship doesn't end when it ends. Like, you really need to use those networks to continue that relationship, because you never know who knows someone else in another industry or in another company. Because a big thing I know for a lot of people I work with is they networked, and a lot of people within the media industry know people because it's such a small knit community. So yeah, we may be at NBC, but we know people over there at ABC. So a lot of people do have connections, and especially if you do put in the effort and they see the talent in you, they're willing to make those phone calls or write letter of recommendations for you. So definitely keep the lines of communication open. I think that's really one of my biggest things I got out of the internship.
And tell your past internships that you're looking for a job. And I would say tell everyone you know that you're looking for a job when you start looking for a job. Let every single person know, parents, friends of parents, you never know who's going to be having a conversation. You never know when the opportunity is going to present itself to someone. And they'll just have your name as sort of what you're looking for in the back of their mind. That's how you get a job.
I think, when I was your age in college, I didn't use LinkedIn as much as I do now, but I think that's another really good resource that you can use if you keep that profile up to date. You'll actually sometimes find recruiters come to you, so it's just another resource you can use.
Is there any one experience, or you can say something you were involved in that's really helped? I don't know what that's really come to light.
Let's say 3 months, let's see how it works out. Will I still accomplish my job?
Studying abroad, or just doing any sort of leadership activity, I think you can I went on a lot of interviews when I first started looking for a job, and the top two things that I get asked about was I held positions in student government and studying abroad. A lot of times they just want to hear you talk about something and hear how your communication skills are and how you present yourself. And so they'll ask you about something that you should be able to talk for an hour about. And if you can have an amazing story about your experience abroad and you can somehow weave in how your coursework will help you do this job, all the better. But definitely those things that make you interesting are great. You're always going to get asked about on interviews, and so just really highlight those on your resume.
Yeah, I think it's not about the number of things you get involved in. I mean, at first you kind of get as many experiences as you can, but eventually throughout your college career you should try and focus on just a couple and then get as deeply involved as you can. Because I think what really helps is the leadership. It's not just, oh, I was a member, it was I was an officer or I was a president or something like that. So really get involved in something you're passionate about and something that you think will help your career.
Kind of going along with studying abroad, I think it's really easy to push your limits and step out of your comfort zone when you're in school, because it's something that I found I've had to do a lot just in the 6-7 months that I've been at work. You're going to be in situations where you don't feel especially comfortable, whether it's somebody treats you badly or at work, or somebody might yell at you, or you need to go out on a sales call and just be by yourself with the president of a company. I took acting class at Villanova, which I thought was really beneficial. I was really involved with theater in general with the undergrad program, Villanova Student Music Theater. But if you can build like your improv and acting skills, I think that's really important. And just anything that you can speak to in an interview, like going abroad or a class that you took where you didn't necessarily feel comfortable, that's going to give you a good talking point and a good conversation starter in an interview to differentiate yourself.
I was actually very involved in women in business when I was in college, and I actually ended up getting my job that I have today from one of the networking events, so that's another big perk. I mean, we talked about networking during your internship, but there's so much networking that you can do while you're here. Villanova is such an amazing resource. There's such a strong alumni base that definitely take advantage of it.
What was the strangest, difference, I guess, from going from college to commercial art?
Fridays. I'll say this, the one thing that really struck me, I think, coming in September, like once the job started, I knew everyone else was at school. For me, I don't think badly of me, but because everyone doesn't. So you might wake up when you're in school and just be like, I'm tired or whatever, I just don't feel like going to class today. You don't have that option at work. You're getting up and you're going. There's no, I just don't feel like it. Oh, I'll email my boss. Like, no, you have to go. That was probably the big thing that kind of shocked and struck me.
I think the biggest thing for me is when I was probably like my first couple of months when I was at my job, I was just sitting at my desk and I was still learning my new role and I didn't have a ton of work to do. And I just sat there and thought to myself, oh my gosh, I have to sit here for 9 hours a day for 5 days a week. If I was at Villanova, I'd be at Bartley, I'd be all over the place, Connolly, I'd be chatting with friends. And I think it was definitely, everyone always laughs, what was your hardest part about, accepting the fact that you'd be working? And it was sitting down and learning how to, I'm going to be here all day, and just really accepting that you're taking on a different lifestyle and you aren't living the free college life and you don't have the freedom to go shopping at 3 o'clock in the afternoon anymore unless it's on your lunch break. So, it's definitely an adjustment, and it's not necessarily a bad adjustment, it's just something you have to get used to, and if you're doing something that you like and you're always learning, then it's a lot easier to adjust than you think.
I would agree. I think for me it was definitely the flexibility factor. But you you do learn how to manage it, and your weekends become like gold to you. And I feel like I really appreciate my free time and do the things that I really want to do.
I think an adjustment period that I went through was when I was at Villanova, and even before that, when I was in high school, I got into the college that I wanted to get into. When I was at Villanova, I got into the organizations and I got the positions that I wanted to get. I was used to being good at life, and then you go out into the real world and it's much more difficult, and people aren't as nice. And I remember my dad always says this to me when my boss is being hard on me. He says, she's your boss, but you're Girl Scout leader. It's not Girl Scouts. It's not even your organization that you're running with your friends. Like, it's just a little, I mean, I work in the arts, so it's probably more cutthroat in other industries. But it's like you really have to be a self-motivator. You're the only one that's going to tell yourself that you're doing a good job. And you also just kind of have to accept that you're just you're a small fish in a big pond now, but you're gonna do something to make a name for yourself, and you're gonna succeed at your job, and you'll get there, and you're still a winner. But you have to tell yourself that it's not gonna come from everybody else anymore.
I think also in a non-working environment, so to say, like on the weekends, you're not seeing everyone you used to hang out with at Villanova. Like, I know I have friends who are all over the country right now, and I just visited one last week in New Orleans, but you really try to create the time that you are together and, really catch up. And it's hard not to talk about work. Like, that's what you do Monday to Friday. We always joke around, we're not talking about it. But then it's like, crickets. Nothing to talk about. So you end up talking about it. And it's always nice because, like, they're your release. Like, you can kind of vent to them. But I think that's what's hard is, like, you used to, be at Villanova. If you're bored in Bartley, you're bored together. Like, now it's like, you're home, it's kind of like, all right, like, what am I doing? But I think that's hard is, like, maintaining those friendships. Like, it's a little bit more of an effort now than it used to be.
I was wondering if there was like a moment or experience while you were at Nova that made you choose the major that you decided to do, or made you choose the career path that you are
I will say that the experiences, not exactly the classes that I took, helped me figure out what I actually really want to do. I was finance and international business here as an undergrad, but my experiences in the study abroad program, as well as the volunteer abroad, I did the all breaks a few times, helped me really figure out that I'm passionate about policy and politics on an international aspect. Helped me realize that diplomacy is something that I really like as well. It's something that I never was able to get from the classes I took here as sort of finance or business related. Conclusion, I think it's the experiences that I had here, that not necessarily the classes I took, that helped me really realize the path that I want to take. So yeah.
Kind of the same thing for me. Like, I originally came in wanting to be a management major, because I thought that was the closest thing to sports management. I thought I really wanted to do that. But then first semester, sophomore year, it's a combination of having my first marketing class with Professor Mullen, or Mr. Mullen actually, and then also having a first job in marketing, which was sales. And it was, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, but Cutco is basically selling knives. And it doesn't sound that glamorous, and I ended up not really wanting to do that, but just learning an aspect of marketing, and then that plus learning in intro to marketing about how dynamic it is and how there's so many different roads you can take. I mean, that was what really kind of sold marketing for me. It's just the experience plus having a hands-on job kind of taught me about it, and I haven't looked back since.
If you guys could give one piece of advice, your best, your worst, one thing, to people that are graduating soon or just general students.
I think, like I said earlier, don't put too much pressure on yourself about your first job. Like I said, they wouldn't call it your first job if it was the only job you ever had. So, I mean, just make sure you're taking steps in the right direction. You make sure that you like the people and that you're learning from the work. And even if you don't love your job and you realize you aren't where you want to be, then make sure you're proactive about getting out on interviews and taking the steps that you need to get where you want to be. Use Villanova's alumni days, as Danielle was saying. Villanova alum love to hire Villanova alum, and I definitely have had a lot of interviews and have met a lot of people because of my alumni status. So definitely take advantage. Just because you leave Villanova doesn't mean you can't ever reach out to the Career Center. I still occasionally check Go Nova from time to time, so can't get rid of me Villanova, but definitely utilize all the tools that are around you.
I would say just be open to learning. I mean, as the girl said before, no one expects you to be an expert in your field your first year on the job, but you're going to be exposed to so many different things. Just keep an open mind and have a positive attitude about learning. And I think it's also important not to lose that personal side of yourself, no matter what hours you're working or what job you're on. Make sure that you do take time for yourself, whether it be on the weekend or at night. Make sure that you follow your passions outside of work as well as at work.
For me, one of the biggest things I've learned the past year and a half now is to network. Even though they say that all the time in college, networking, being proactive in joining clubs or associations, professional or volunteer or what have you. Be fearless about meeting people. I know initially networking is like, oh my gosh, I don't know these people. How am I going to say hi to them? How am I going to start a conversation? It's really important. You just really have to bite the bullet and just meet people. And I will say that through the organizations I've joined in the past 12 months, I've met CEOs of companies, partners at Pricewaterhouse, people that wouldn't meet in just a social setting. And it's been a huge asset for me. And even for my company now considers me an asset because I have connections. I have certain connections that I can just call and say, hey, remember me? And they're like, yeah, sure. It's a huge asset to be, to network, to meet people, be fearless. For example, today I was at a luncheon. To my left was a CEO of a marketing firm in Philly. To my right was a partner at Morgan Stanley. That would never happen at Villanova. And it's just me being a 23-year-old recent grad. But you have to be unafraid to talk to those people. And if you show them that you're not afraid, they respect you. They respect you for being, even though you're young and they know you don't have much experience in your belt, they do respect you. And they even appreciate that you're talking to them and reach out to them later. And I think that's very important. So networking, being fearless, and being proactive about joining various organizations, professional or volunteer organizations.
I would say that for me it's been important to learn to not take anything too personally in the workplace. And also to, like what Gabriela was saying, was to not be afraid to approach people with how you feel. I know they kind of shoved me into some of these networking luncheons and events. They're like, here, go at it. And a lot of these people feel just as awkward as you do in those situations. It might be somebody who's been in the industry for 20 years, but they don't know how to talk to someone who's 22 and just out of college. They don't know what to say to you any more than you know what to say to them. You really can't be afraid to approach them. And like Gabriela said, they'll appreciate it, you coming to them. And yeah, just you have to kind of have a thick skin when it comes to being at work. If you get in trouble, it's not the end of the world. But don't do it twice. So you just can't take things too personally. If someone snaps at you, you don't want to. And I know girls are always, women in business have this stereotype. You don't want to go into the bathroom and cry. But if you do, it's okay. But you can't take people too seriously. Everybody's gonna think that they're more important than you, but they're really not. A lot of the times. So I know like we have this one woman in the office who snaps at everybody, and if you don't do something exactly her way, then it's wrong. But something that I've been learning is to manage up. So you have to know your managers too, know how they work, and they'll be really impressed if you can figure out their inner workings and how to deal with them and how to deal with their moods and how to deal with the way they like things done.
I'd probably say like really be proactive. I know like there are times at work like I do have downtime, it's a little quiet, but you know, for me it's that time that I can look more into projects that are going on with my team. Or I know at the beginning especially it was learning people's names. Like you have so many people who are either in your office or even for us outer offices who you talk to on the phone every day. You're just like, oh, who are you? Like your name's Jack. Cool. What do you do? So you know, taking that time to learn the people, learn the company, learn the projects that go on, and even it goes noticed when I know I went into my boss one day and I was talking about it. She's like, oh, how'd you know about that? I was like, oh, I read about it. She's like, oh, okay. And like they start to notice that like you're making the initiative, and they don't have to ask you to do things twice because you kind of followed up on it and really try to, I guess, make a mark and prove that like you're there and you've done it. So.
I would say my biggest piece of advice would be to just find something that you're passionate about, and the first step is figuring out what you're passionate about. And it's like the old truism that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And you might not love what you do right away, but if that's your end goal, just figure out really what makes you tick and what you're going to get behind. I knew that I wanted to work for a nonprofit. I knew that I wanted to, largely because of my Villanova education, wanted to feel like I was going to impact my world with whatever I did, and it wasn't just a job, that I was able to better other people's lives, and that really grounded me through my job search. And I wrote that in all my cover letters and said that in all my interviews, and I really meant it. And I think that it showed people working in the nonprofit sector that I wasn't just interested in an entry-level job, that I really wanted to work for a cause that I believed in, and I think that really helped me.
Yes, I mean everyone kind of said every piece of advice I've heard here, so to try and sum it up, I guess just 2 words: be bold. Be bold in everything you say, think, and do. I'm actually an incredibly introverted person naturally. Like if you'd have told me 3 years ago that I'd be sitting in front of a panel and talking to people, I'd be like, get the heck out of here, no way. So, you know, when you're writing that resume, you're writing the cover letter, and you're talking to people, when you're even just thinking about what you want to do with your life, be bold, think outside the box, and just go for it. Like I said before, I'm always a big advocate of being upfront and honest about what you're looking for and what you want. And like she said, you got to figure that out first, and then just be bold and get it done.
For the networking reception, it'll start probably in 5 or 10 minutes. If you guys want. Everything's out now. Everything's out. Okay. Yeah.
Putting it out now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a raffle, so you can get your tickets for that. And if you stick around, we're probably going to announce a raffle in about an hour. And there's lots of prizes. There's an Amex gift card, lots of cool stuff for $200. So. Thank you.